everyone. Phil Herrera from the Way Forward podcast here, and your host for the 2024 JPU Podathon. And this evening, we've been joined by some of the best and brightest podcasters in all of Northeast Florida, while also getting a chance to sponsor and benefit a good cause here in terms of feeding Northeast Florida. So really, really great opportunity once again here in December. But we're on to our next interview, and with our next guest, please give us take a moment to introduce yourself as well as your podcast.
Yeah, my name is Rich Herrera, and I host Eat Your Content. It's a podcast about food and pop culture.
Love that. How long have you been at it, and what made you want to start the show?
It's going to be 2 years January, and the way I wanted to start this is I watched The Bear. Have you ever seen The Bear?
Oh, yeah.
So
very much enjoy The Bear.
I binged the first season of The Bear, and the first thing I wanted to do was talk about it.
Yeah.
And I had nobody to talk to about it, but I do some freelance food writing for Jax Restaurant Reviews.
Okay.
So I have a connection to some chef friends here in town, and I called one up, and I'm like, hey, have you watched The Bear? He's like, yeah, I love it. You want to get on a podcast and talk about it? Sure. Yeah. And then we just cranked it out in an hour and a half. It's a horrible first episode, as most first episodes are. Yeah. But it's I got bit by the bug, and I'm 68 episodes in now. I do Top Chef recaps. Anytime food is on TV, I'm probably going to be talking about it.
I love that. Did you ever work in a restaurant?
I worked at McDonald's when I was 15 for like 2 weeks.
Because I always like asking people that love The Bear if it's like triggering for them. Because I have my brother-in-law, he works in a kitchen as like a side job, and he will not watch The Bear because it's like PTSD.
Well, yeah, that was
so he like doesn't want to watch
that was one of the things I talked to about my first guest on my first episode, Chef Dennis Chan of Blue Bamboo. I don't know if you're familiar with him in Jacksonville. Yeah. He said the same thing. He was like, man, watching this is triggering for me going up into the the restaurant industry. So that's what I talk about on my podcast.
Yeah, fantastic show. Is The Bear a comedy?
Yeah, I had this debate with another guest. It is very much not a comedy. Yeah. If you haven't watched it, it's got funny moments.
It's funny.
It's got funny moments, but it is very anxiety-inducing. So, yeah, if you're prone to anxiety, you might want to hold off on that one for a bit.
Just selfishly, I'm glad, as a big Ted Lasso fan, I'm glad we got our Emmys out of the way before The Bear started. So it worked out pretty well.
Up.
It worked out pretty well for me. Well, in 68 episodes, do you have a favorite, or maybe even a couple favorite?
Yeah, I probably have to say my favorite is episode, I think it's 28. Somebody fact check me on that one. But anybody that's worked in the restaurant industry has probably seen the movie Waiting.
Yes.
2005, Ryan Reynolds'
Dane
very first
Cook
movie, Dane Cook. Yep. I interviewed the writer and director of that movie.
Oh, awesome.
And it's just an hour and a half of just this unhinged conversation. As wild as the movie Waiting is, the behind-the-scenes stuff that you get to hear about on that episode is just as crazy. So if you kind of want to know what Eat Your Content is about, start with that one. Yeah. And it's an amazing interview. It was so much fun to have him on, and I was very privileged to be able to get that guy on.
How did you manage to reach out to them?
I slipped in his DMs.
That's what I tell people. If they have like their email address in there, they want to be contacted. Like in their Instagram profile, they want to be contacted. You never know to reach out to them. The worst they say is no, and a lot of them, or they just won't respond.
Yeah, so I sent him a message on Facebook in the morning, and like 2 hours later, he messaged me back and said, "Dude, I haven't thought about waiting in like 10 years. Hell yeah, I'd love to talk about it on your podcast." I'm like, fantastic.
I love that. Well, in the time that you have done done the show, what's something that you're looking to improve upon or get better at?
I mean, growing the audience obviously is something I want to do. I think that's the goal of most podcasters, to grow the audience. This is a hobby for me right now. I'd like it for it to not be a hobby. You know, I love it and I enjoy it, and it's a full-time job, and I have a full-time job during the day. So dedicating another 8 hours of my evening to this is exhausting. But I want this. I love it, and one thing, I just want to grow my audience and gain new listeners, get great guests on my podcast. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Love that. Well, you said this is your first JPU event.
Yes.
You picked a hell of a one to come to.
No kidding.
One of the most fun of the year, and which is really great. What's been one of your favorite things here thus far this evening?
Networking. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Just not a podcaster myself. I go out and listen to them and try to take best practices and putting faces to names and meeting hosts in person is always fun, and networking with other folks that are going through the same struggles of launching a podcast.
Lots of like-minded people,
Talk to one person, they say, I just launched my first podcast the other day. I'm like, that's half the battle there.
Just doing it.
Keep plowing through that wall and you'll get it. So
Absolutely.
It's been fun meeting everybody.
Love that. Well, it was great speaking with you here this evening.
Thank you.
Please let our audience know one more time where they can find you and any of your projects.
Yeah, so you can find Eat Your Content anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all the usual suspects. You can follow me on socials. I'm my personal at Rich Herrera or at Eat Your Content. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Threads. I don't know, Blue Sky. I might be getting on that one at some point.
We're waiting for the go to make the transition to
and
Blue
then,
Sky.
I don't know, we might not have TikTok in a month, so we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, so you can find me on all the socials at Rich Herrera at Eat Your Content.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rich. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
And thanks for joining us here at the 2024 JPU Podathon.
Thank you.